Thank you for watching this Parallels Remote Application Server training material. In this particular session, we'll be covering a few different topics today. But first, let's cover about who is Parallels. Parallels has more than 5 million individuals and more than 50,000 businesses using Parallels technologies. In Remote Application Server, we have a subset of those industries or customer base, and we are highly successful in education, healthcare, and manufacturing. That doesn't mean that you can sell Parallels Remote Application Server in other markets. It is just more or less where we have been more successful, replacing Citrix technologies and as well enhancing Microsoft RDS. Historically speaking, Parallels started in the Parallels desktop business, which is a hypervisor on Macs where you can run Windows, Linux, or even other Mac operating systems within your Mac device. Also, we have Parallels Toolbox for Mac and Windows, which is a new product that we have released with multiple packs and options on how you can interact with your desktop and combining with very common useful tools. And Parallels Mac Management. It is a solution dedicated to manage Macs and integrating this particular content and metadata with Microsoft SCCM. And of course, in our conversation today or in this video, we're going to discuss about Remote Application Server, which was an acquisition that Parallels did more or less 3 years ago from a company name called 2X, where we are delivering applications, desktops, and VDIs or shared VDIs or even PCs, and highly successful replacing Citrix technology and complementing RDS. So the agenda today has two different areas. One of them we call the core mandatory components, which we talk a little bit about methodology, our sales pitch, and along to this recording, we have a presentation that it's in our partner portal where you can see examples, selling points, competitive analysis, and of course, case studies. The audience for this particular material, of course, is for sales specialists and pre-sales engineers to get more familiarized with Remote Application Server and as well how to talk about the technology. What do we do, how we demo, and what are our key differentiation and so on. But remember about this, the prerequisites for you to clearly understand an easy sell or reference to our technology, you need to understand a little bit about virtualization technologies. For example, Citrix XenApp or XenDesktop. Basic networking knowledge. What is a networking, printing, or even server groups or Active Directory domain? Desktop and application delivery. How is the concept of you installing applications on the server, Windows Server, for example, and streaming those apps to endpoint devices? Most recently, application packaging using AppV, Turbo.net, or other tools in the marketplace, like CalPage is another example. It's something as a plus, but it's not a mandatory understanding how we build those packages. Now, the objective for this training is for you to understand more or less what do we do about our product line, about Remote Application Server, and as you have more people onboarded or even having pre-sales engineers involved, I recommend you to go through our online training or our self-paced training on YouTube and see how each module of Parallels Remote Application Server works. Now, in this terms of methodology, what is very important? A good example, it's not to be only a farmer or a hunter type of sales rep. We need to challenge. We need to find out what is the problem. We need to debate the problem with the customer, gather as much as information as possible, and then have a clearly understanding or a good fit how we can contribute to reduce downtime, reduce cost, reduce complexity, or other variables in the IT world. And in this concept, it doesn't really matter if you're using on-premise deployments or Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, or somewhere in between. It is a combination nowadays. So understanding the pain points and how we can make value, it's a very important thing that we can bring across for our customer base. So I'd really recommend you go to Amazon's website, download or buy this particular book because it's a good guideline on how we can excel in sales. So a clear winner in this particular concept is not only about relationship. Top sales performers, they understand how the problem can be solved. And of course, high performance, it is building a relationship and as well a clearly understanding about how that can be done. So teach the differentiation about our technology. Tailor the message, which means I can show you the elevator pitch, which we'll be covering a little bit ahead. But before talking to the customer, go to their website, find out a little bit more what they do and how we can be a good value for them. And of course, controlling the conversation is very important. Have an agenda like I presented in the beginning of this call, talking about what do you want to know, what is the goal for this call, and what would be the next step or different steps that you have in the journey of selling our technology. Now, the second point here, it's related to teach the differentiation side. So in this particular point here is what is the concept or the components of the sales pitch? It's the way, the emotional impact, rational drawing, reframing, and the warmer part. So when you relate to a remote application server, bring those points. What is the customer needs? Why they're buying? What is the pitch? What is the positioning? Understand if they have a budget. What is the timing for the budget? And what is compelling them to acquire remote application server or even simply replacing existing technology that they might have. And when you tailor the message, here is just a couple of examples, is how we have the role in the organization. Who are you talking to? Are you talking to the C-level? Are you talking to the IT level? And depending how you speak with the customer or the potential customer, it will make a difference. Let me give an example. If we're talking about reducing the number of employees because we're simplifying complexity, talking to the IT director might be good, but he might feel threatened. If you have the same conversation with the CIO about reducing cost, optimizing workforce, reducing downtime, adding value, that is a plus. So keep in mind, depending what you talk, is very good for an individual or to the organization, but it might not be for others. When we talk about controlling the conversation, what is very important here is to clearly understand the TCO story, or what are the partners that you mean the customer works with. Do they work with CDW, SHIs, Insights, or even a specific local vendor? Mapping your customer and how we sell our product is a very important point to do. And leverage the ease of use. We hear all the time, Parallels Remote Application Server, super easy to install, super easy to maintain. You can show in a demo, of course, but the ease of use, it's an immediate way to improve TCO, improve return of investment, and reduce customer pains. And of course, mapping the pricing scenario is highly critical. If this opportunity is going to be for SMBs, MBs, enterprise, our subscription model price is the most important way to do it. And if you're talking to a service provider who uses something similar to Microsoft's PLA, or they use service provider partner contract, which is based on utilization, not subscription, we have a pricing model for that. So remember, our flexibility and pricing strategy, it's only two: subscription and SPLA. And you can use all of the product features. Doesn't matter which pricing model you are. And for a quick POC, our customers or potential customers can start very easy on Microsoft Azure using Azure Marketplace Search or Amazon Web Services AWS. In maybe 10-15 minutes, the VM is provisioned. And from the power of the organizations in the funnel, you have to keep in mind that 57% of the buying process, it's often completed before the prospect engages with the seller, which means a lot of online research, a lot of reading, or even videos. That's why we have a library of videos showing how remote application server works, how it's deployed, key features, and of course, all of our webinars are recorded where you can share a link or invite your potential customers to come to Parallels webinars and see how the product works, how it replaces Citrix, how we move to cloud, or even different stories we have with our own partner base. When we speak about the sales pitch, there's actually two ways to do that. We have, I call it the 10-second elevator pitch, where we don't have much time to talk about, or even the 30 seconds. So Parallels Remote Application Server is a comprehensive virtual application and desktop delivery solution that allows your employees to use and access applications and desktops and even data from any device. So that's the concept of mobility and security. When we talk a little bit more, it is similar speech where we can replace Citrix, bring better TCO, and as well, if they're using only Microsoft RDS, we can replace RDS. What is also very important is to better understand the customer's needs and timing before we do a POC. So our POCs, we try to keep it between 30 to 60 days. Make sure the customer is ready. Make sure they have the time to do a proof of concept, have the resources to do that. Or if they already have Citrix or other softwares in use and they're looking to replace it, what is the time frame or when the contract expires? Next month, 2 months, 3 months, next year. So what do we need to ask? So in the partner portal, we call the telesales guide, or our cheat sheet, for you to ask questions and potential answers on how remote application server could be a fit or not. But usually compelling questions is if they're trying to virtualize apps, they have legacy applications they need to deliver to iPads or Android devices, or I have a Windows application and I want to run on a Mac or deliver to a Mac, or even protected data. So all of those things can be potential scenarios that we can work with. Based on those questions, then we can talk about what is remote application server. So let's talk about our message in general. From our message, what we always focus is Parallels RAS, or remote application server. It's easy to use, it is flexible and secure. Even for the federal government, sometimes people ask, do you support FIPS? Of course we do. We have FIPS enforcement nowadays on version 16.5. So in this generic slide, we are easily delivering Windows applications that are running on Windows servers or desktops or VDIs to literally almost every device. They can be running on Windows, Mac OS, Android, iOS, Chrome, Linux base, which can be Raspberry Pis, thin clients, and of course delivering to HTML5 web browser. Something that is growing a lot, it is the Chromebook world. especially in education. And you can either use HTML5 with a Chromebook or use our client on Chrome OS. Depending how the use case is, you can pick and choose. Our architecture is fairly flexible. We support or depend on Microsoft RD session host. That's why RDSH there. And we pretty much work with any hypervisor. For VDI, for example, we work with Zen Server. We work with VMware ESXi and vCenter, Microsoft Hyper-V, KVM, and Nutanix AHV, the Acropolis hypervisor. For the end users, we're securely encrypting access, so encryption is end-to-end. And to increase security and access to applications, we connect to Active Directory, and as well, we support multi-factor authentication. And the access level is granular. You can set policies based upon location, entry point, operating system, or who or what this user is in the organization. In 2016, here is a picture where we are compared to the other companies. And we're considered to be a major player. This bubble is a little bit bigger now. 2 years after this particular report was done, we're working with IDC to have it updated. But what we keep listening from our customers frequently is what? Simplicity, cost, ease to use. We reducing the pain points and making sure we're replacing the big heavy guys like VMware and Citrix quicker. So we can convert customers in a fairly quick time frame. Like for example, in a week or two instead of months to make a transition or even an upgrade. And when we talk about benefits, we have these 4 pillars where we talk about security, which I mentioned a little bit ago, related to policies, and that ties to, for example, to FIPS, to HIPAA, or GDPR to some degree if you are in Europe or you do business with European Union countries. High performance user experience. We improve access, speed, simplicity, because everything is centralized in one place. We are making the applications that are not friendly to run on iOS and Android using our own methodology to do so, or magnifier. You choose the mouse experience, or native printing using AirPrint capability, for example. The user does not have to think if their application is compatible with that device. We take care of that. On-demand flexibility, we can automatically scale the number of Windows VMs in the server based upon user consumption. So if you have way too many users connected, we can add virtual machines for the peak time. And once that it's over or usage of the infrastructure goes down, we deprovision these resources. And of course, the TCO reduction, which is something that I have been talking over and over again. We have TCO calculators, and as well we can project potential savings and of course when the ROI will come. So let's drill down here on the security side, because security access control is a big concern across enterprises or businesses or even universities and colleges. So multi-factor authentication and client policy, they are the most important pieces. We can integrate multi-factor authentication with multiple vendors, like MFA from Azure or other radius-based MFA technologies like Duo, DeepNet, SafeNet. And to some use cases, if you want to use only smart card authentication or smart card and user and password, that it's also possible. All of these integrations and connectivity, they're out of the box. On the policy side, you can set how your users can access certain apps, or even if they're connecting from home, they cannot access certain apps. So you can set different rules related to groups, or even locations, or even the client type. All of this information related to how users access or usage, or even group accesses, we are monitoring and reporting. And those two different pieces into the monitor and reporting side, they are out of the box feature or features. They are available for downloading the Parallels download website because they are add-on components, and you can enable it at any time. Once you enable them, you start collecting that information. So it's very useful to find out, for example, if somebody connected in the middle of the night and stay connected for a long period of time. So you can start looking those trends and make decisions, maybe to disable an account at night or find out what this particular user was accessing the environments in a very suspicious time. In the UI side, here's just an example how each client works. We have pretty much all of the platforms using client-based access, like on Android, iPhone, iPad, Windows, Macs, and Chromebooks, or using the HTML5, which is clientless, where everything runs within the browser. When we speak about deployment, of course, we have, we run on pretty much every version of Windows Server. So applications are available, not as a strict farm operating system like Citrix is. You can have a controller that can have apps running Windows Server 2016, 2012, 2008 R2, or even 2003 Service Pack 1. In VDI, you can deliver on Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows 10. We still have a few running Windows XP. It's becoming more and more difficult to see those use cases, which is good. People moving to newer versions of operating systems. And the hypervisors, like I mentioned before, we run on Zen Server, ESXi, Hyper-V, KVM, and Acropolis. And of course, if you're running on Amazon Web Services or Azure, that it's also available for us. We have OEM hyperconvergence certifications with Nutanix, Lenovo, and HP Enterprise. And if you're using application containers, we can run with Turbo.NET and as well Microsoft AppV, which means from the RAS administration console, you can enable packages or package distribution or execution directly from our console. The pricing model, we have, like I mentioned too, a subscription license and postpaid, which is SPLA. One, it's cost based on $100 per user per year with all of the features. The payment is done upfront. Multi-year offer is also available, and key can be activated only once. Well, you can deactivate and reactivate if you move your farm. Sub-licensing is not available, and it's available for SMB and enterprise. On the SPLA side, actually now we support sub-licensing, which is a very new feature, but it's ideal for ISVs and cloud service providers. And the billing side, it's done based upon on the count on peak concurrent user. So let's see, we are in August now. You will calculate August peak user consumption, and you will pay that usage in September, for example. So it's like cell phone bill that you use your phone. If you use add-ons, and you charge in the next billing cycle, and that's actually how it works. So let's cover a little bit more about the extra materials. I'm not covering the entire presentation, but I wanted to highlight now a little bit more about the industry examples and, of course, maybe a little bit of success stories, but I recommend you to look into the deck. We have our unique selling points that you can take a look and see how it fits for your customer base. So let's take a look first here, the perfect fit for any industry. So here is a card that we created to tell you more about education, finance, healthcare, and so on. It's like almost like a cheat sheet where we can see, for example, access to applications, SaaS environment, or even line of business applications. When we talk about healthcare, it's related to ERPs, EMRs, or even other applications that are in their hospital. In all of these use cases, what we see as a common trend is related to access to applications from many devices or people starting to bring their own devices. We have files and data that needs to be protected or even not shared outside the organizations. That could be a hospital, a clinic, or even a bank. And um, one of the biggest things is related to staff and schedule management. So if you want to do management on the server side or update the applications, you don't have to go to every single computer. That is always done on the server side. And of course, those benefits to users, they reflect to some degree to the IT side, where you are reducing the number of installs, reducing the time to do certain actions, and all of those things can be done in a much quicker way. And of course, when we compare to Citrix or Azure Remote App, which is something that has been phased out by Microsoft, we have competitive ways to deliver that on Azure, or even bridge local and cloud hosted environments, which is becoming more and more needed from an enterprise perspective to reduce investments in hardware or even servers. When we look into retail, construction, which is like mobility is very big, hospitality and manufacturing is very interesting. In hospitality and manufacturing, the process and applications, they have been out there for maybe 20, 30 years. And to replace those applications is fairly difficult because it requires a lot of rewriting, a lot of changes, and maintain two different applications could be very expensive. So what we see a lot in this particular areas, and as well that applies to retail, you can virtualize those applications, run on Windows servers, and stream to new devices, or even give them a mobile access using HTML5 without compromising functionalities or confusing the end user on use a new platform. They just need to log into a portal. You can watch a video that we have demos in our website or even on YouTube and see. You log in with your credentials and you access the application, and the application is the same that the user was using before. And what is very important to recap all of the points that we have been talking about, it's related to parallels versus the competition. And this slide is very important because it can summarize what we have been talking for the last 25 minutes or so. So the deployment, it's easy. It's not complicated to maintain, manage, or even upgrade. The upgrade windows, for example, can be done in minutes or hours instead of days or weeks. We are simple by design, allowing fast and easy integration with the portfolio. That can be for IT, business, ISVs, or MSPs. Because of our pricing, we're much more cost effective. We can reduce Citrix deployment, TCO by 60%. And because we have a single pricing model with just two different models, SPLA or subscription, it's simple. You don't have to use different tiers to get all of the functionalities. All of the features are out there. And if you want to test, or our partners or customers want to test side by side, it's possible. You can run Citrix and Parallels Remote Application Server at the same time on the same servers. And the same thing applies with pure RDS deployments or even VMware deployments. And usually when we talk about those pain points, We provide an end user with the same experience. Making local printers and scanners available. This is a huge pain point for service providers or large enterprises. We do automatically print redirection. And we resolve difficult and long implementation processes because our deployment is quicker. You can have a POC up and running with your customer or partner in 90 minutes or so. And we can understand the user activity, what apps are being used. You can manage the user sessions. And of course, you can scale the service as you need. So because we don't calculate pricing based upon on servers or applications is only by concurrent users, you can use one server or 1,000 servers. In this case, we don't care about it. And if you want to see a graphical interpretation how we compare RAS to the competition, this is a great picture where we are looking for major features, where we're reducing the cost, where you're looking for replacing Citrix. So you can see there are a lot of points related to either it's the cost an issue or you need third-party products from or other add-ons from Citrix, not XenDesktop or XenApp like FileShare. Or if you are using remote desktop services, there are a lot of limited features there. And with a add-on on your cost, of course, you can add much more features which Microsoft cannot offer today or is slightly limited on their offering side. And with VMware is a mixed bag, right? So you have different, pros and cons. Like for example, VMware does not offer drag and drop capabilities, which we offer today. So it's a use case scenario for each users. Now, with the presentation almost done here, I didn't want to take too much of your time. I recommend you to look the same presentation that I just showed to you from our partner portal, where we have our unique selling points and as well different success stories and quotes from our customers. So if you have any questions, please come to us, contact our sales team, or send us an email or schedule a call, and then we can discuss about potential use case scenarios, strategy, or even work with you and train your organization. Thank you so much for your time and look forward to working with you.